People will always judge you, but I'm happy to let you judge it. Some people genuinely want more money. Some people genuinely want more power. When you're young, you can afford to make mistakes. I should never have gone to an IIT in the first place. The campus is so beautiful. It just kind of overwhelms you.
Next step was working on a bunch of startups.
So we were a little ahead of our time. I innovated a product called yourbillbuddy.com. So I went to Copenhagen, met the team. They made an offer. And I liked what I was doing.
Don't change the company, but change the job in a way.
I was not meant to go to Singapore. Fell in love with the idea of living outside of India. I am now surrounded by people from so many different places, so many different cultures. Younger people today are smarter.
I can do it better than how it used to be done. You started as manager, you end up becoming CEO.
The velocity at a startup is just crazy. Started blogging for many years in different forms. I talk about my wealth building experience. I sold Tesla too early. I learned a lot of lessons about not overextending myself. It's very simple. It buys you optionality.
And what if someone has missed the boat? What's your opinion on it?
One of the things I do today
Hi Shrini, welcome to Behind the Door podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here, Sachin. Very much honored.
Thanks. So we have 4 things in common, right? We went to IIT.
That's right.
We started our career in India.
That's right.
We follow the same route, India, Singapore, UK.
That's right too. Yeah.
And lastly, we work in advertising and marketing.
Yes, that's true too. Yes.
So we'll start from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Tell me your experience about IIT.
Experience. Look, I mean, anybody who's fortunate enough to go to IIT is going to have, a great experience. You went there. I went there. We know this. It's great. What is interesting is that I should never have gone to an IIT in the first place.
Okay, interesting.
My undergrad was a course called BIT from Delhi University.
Right.
And it was originally a 3-year degree, then it became a 4-year degree. But it was never officially equivalent to an engineering degree in India as per the AICTE at that time. To do an MTech in IIT, one of the basic qualifications was you had to be equivalent to an engineer.
True.
I didn't have that. So a friend of mine who's an engineer himself, he said, just take the gate. What's the worst thing you can do? Took the gate, got a good score, applied to all the IITs, even though I only wanted to go to one.
Right.
But I thought, well, if I'm not eligible, you might as well, cast your net as wide as possible.
Which one you wanted to go?
I wanted to go to Kanpur.
Okay.
Right? I wanted to go to Kanpur. I had a large amount of adoration for Kanpur from many years ago.
Right.
It was the first computer science department in the country.
Right.
I think they were the first to get a computer in academics in India.
Correct. I think that was the norm, right? Kanpur is for engineering, computer, and Mumbai is for more mechanical and so on.
That's been changing over time,
right?
And Kanpur has also been trying to adapt and so on.
Right.
But yes, that's very much the kind of background with which I wanted to go to Kanpur. So I applied to Kanpur. They sent me an invitation to join. They didn't even want an interview. They said direct entry.
Okay.
And I look at it and I say, well, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy, but I don't know whether they'll actually take me in. So my father suggested, look, only way to figure it out is let's go to Kanpur and figure it out. So we took a train, reached there in the evening, went to the IIT guest house, showed our thing. They said, yeah, come stay with us. Next morning, go to the department. And at that time, the head of department was Dr. Pankaj Jirote.
Okay.
Whose books I had already seen. So you can now think, he's semi-god for me, right?
Yeah.
So go in, knock on the door. He says, I'll see you in 15 minutes. We wait 15 minutes, we go in. We explain the situation and it takes him 30 seconds to say, whose signature do you see there? I said, that's yours, sir. And he says, what do you see there? He says, that you've been admitted. He says, then it's a done deal.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
Nothing will happen. You're admitted here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 months or something. And that was the end of the conversation. Yeah. He is a fantastic human being. Over the years. There were other parts of my academic life that touched him. But that moment I still remember.
Right.
So I shouldn't have been there.
Correct.
But in IITs, they have enough autonomy that if the head of department decides that they want you,
correct,
it doesn't matter what other rules they have.
Right.
And that's how I went there. And fascinating 2 years, and very much a proud alum.
That's fascinating. I mean, I remember similar stories. So I went through the gate exam, and then I wanted to go for industrial engineering. And that time, only three IITs were offering it. It was Bombay, so Mumbai, Kanpur, and Roorkee. So there were three choices, and Kanpur was not a specialized course, but under mechanical you can go there and opt for that subject. So I went to Kanpur as first. Went there, met a author. I think Amitava Ghosh Malik. So there are a pair of author, Mr. Ghosh, Mr. Malik, and met one of them for the interviews. Bit panicked as well because I'm seeing the author for first time. Right? It's fascinating to see them. And then, unluckily, Mumbai and Roorkee was on the same day. So that time we used to have interview, if you remember, right? So I got the letter from both IITs, same day interview, and I wanted to maximize my chances just to get into IIT. So chose the Roorkee, went there, and the story began from there.
Yeah. If I may ask, which year did you go?
This was 2006 to 2008.
Okay. So the other interesting thing, which is in there's an inflection in the demand for MTech in India. Right. So I went in 2002.
Right.
In 2001, the number of students taking GATE exam were a mere 5,500 in computer science.
Wow.
Okay.
My time it was 60,000 plus.
Yeah. By the time I did it, which was 2002, 19,000 took it. And the following year, it was already 55,000. I very often wonder, if I'd been 1 year late, there's no chance I could have beaten all the other wonderful
But now
students who came along,
True. And now they're compensating, I think, by putting up more IITs.
They are, and they've been growing. And I think even when I went, there were, I think, 30 seats. By the time the batch next to mine came along, they were already upgraded to 55 or something. So they were working hard at trying to increase that supply. And obviously, I mean, the IITs have so much depth and legacy that if they can kind of build it out and expand, and the brand is so strong that they can attract talent, and there is a lot of ecosystem around it, which I'm sure you all already know. So I think all of that benefits. So if more people can benefit from it, absolutely they should.
Yeah, and I think one thing which fascinates me about MTech program, it's like giving a second chance. So when I did my bachelor's, so mechanical engineering, I got to know about the concept of IIT in my first year. Come from a tier 2 city where there was no awareness about there is a IIT for bachelors. So I only came to know in first year, and I'm like, okay, I missed the boat. There is a second chance. Let me try that, and that's how I entered into it.
So my story is slightly different. So I very, very acutely aware of IITs.
Okay.
I come from a community, or I come from a family where quite a few, kind of distant cousins and all made it. And so I was well aware. I did the whole coaching and all that. Obviously did not make it. But the day the results came out for the undergrad, that is IIT JEE, I had gone to IIT to submit the form, not for the results, but to submit the forms.
Yeah.
And that is when I saw an IIT campus in person.
Right.
And I was just like a kid in a fair, right? Like it was so amazing. The campus is so beautiful. It just kind of overwhelms you at some level.
True.
And so by the time 4 years later, when I was trying to take my GATE, there was that extra level of motivation, right? Right? No, I mean, to be fair, I went to Delhi University from undergrad, which is also a wonderful university. It had a lot of things for it. But there was that little extra motivation saying, you've seen a campus now, you know what it means. Just put that little extra effort and see what that works out. So
I think that will be a best motivation. They should arrange more campus tours,
which is interesting. So I, since then I've obviously visited other campuses and so on. 3 years ago, I happened to be in the US, which is a separately interesting story. But I was in Pittsburgh, one of the stop points. I was doing a East Coast to West Coast journey then. And so one of the stop points was Pittsburgh. And I told my travel mate saying, I definitely want to go see Carnegie Mellon University because I've heard so great things about it. Carnegie Mellon used to be great at computer vision, which is where I did my research way back at my MTech.
Right.
So I said, look, I really want to go see it. Nothing else, just to soak in the atmosphere. So we went to Carnegie Mellon University. We went to University of Pittsburgh, which is just next door, and just soaking in that atmosphere. Even though I was past my 40 at that time. It's like so. And one of the from all of that, one of the things I've taken in that if I had an opportunity to get my daughter exposed to more university campuses,
True.
right, I should.
True.
So I've taken her to Oxford, which is very beautiful. But hopefully, she's still 12. There's a lot of time. But hopefully, along the way, I'll get an opportunity to take her to a few more interesting places.
That makes so much sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So, graduated from IIT. Next step was, I guess, working on bunch of startups, kind of a regular, not the behind the glass door job, but it was more like starting level positions. Tell me your experience.
Yeah, I've for some reason I was always a little bit contrarian. I cared less about convention, just wanted to do my own thing. And when I was graduating from IIT, I had a first day first job at campus placement.
Day zero.
Day zero job. Obviously, at that time, it was a big deal and so on. I got it in a company called Veritas, which is now Symantec, and I don't know what else happened to it. But very nice job, and 9 of us got in. But then along the way, I was studying a course with a professor called Dr. Praveen Bhagwat.
Okay.
And he started a company, and he just said, like, he wasn't like kind of recruiting or anything like that. But the fact is that he said, we're doing all those school things. I'd already taken a course and knew him. I said, look, if he's doing a company, is there a chance that I can go work? So spoke to him, and he said, yeah, interview with us. And I interviewed, I got the job. It was a startup. I think I was employee number 27, maybe or not then. It did a great, it was a great journey. I think it's been, eventually, I think it was just acquired maybe 5-6 years ago by a listed company. So that was a good experience. Then I went to another company where I innovated a product called yourbillbuddy.com. But I think it was a little bit ahead of its time, didn't really succeed.
What was that product?
So, back in India at that time, mobile data plans and mobile plans used to be very complex. It'll be one charge for text, one charge for thing, one charge for long distance calls. You never knew what the right plan for you was unless you did a PhD in it. So we said, look, computers are great at this. You put your mobile bill, just upload it. We will figure out what your usage is. And we'll tell you what the better plan is.
Oh, that's nice.
So we automated all of it. This was under a company called Trilogy. Trilogy allows for a lot of internal innovation, entrepreneurship. So we did it. We built it. Me and a guy called Shanky, the two of us came up with the idea. But then we worked around with our peers. We built out the product. We launched it. But I was young. The product was built with mobile number portability in mind. But sadly, mobile number portability was then postponed for a while. And we built this product without really a utility, because if you now had to change a plan, you also had to change your number. If mobile number portability had come in when they had promised it will come, then it would have taken off crazily. But it didn't. So we were a little ahead of our time. And so I was also a little young. I quite wasn't feeling in place at that time. Left it, went to another startup. This time I was the first engineer. And built out some very interesting internet products for about a year and a half. So at this time, I'd done 3.5 years. I said, look, let me go work for a larger company. Went to Yahoo.
Okay. So this was the India to Singapore shift?
So I moved to Singapore within Yahoo. So half the time I worked out of Bangalore, half of it I worked out of Singapore. So that took me to Singapore. And Yahoo is the only large company I've ever worked for.
How was that shift? In terms of location, we'll come to that. But moving from a startup culture to now settled company like Yahoo, what was one thing which you missed and what you gained as well?
Well, what I missed is the speed of things. The velocity at a startup is just crazy. You think of something and you do it. And you work very intensely. You build very, very strong relationships with the people that you're working with, small teams. And you learn a lot from each other. You learn a lot by doing. You may not have a lot of guidance, so you have to self-learn a lot. The big difference with Yahoo is larger company. Your social circle is bigger now.
Correct.
You can find one person of every kind. You want a cricket lover, you'll find one. You want a Friends lover, you'll find one. You want somebody who loves Java, you'll find one. Somebody who hates Java, you'll find that also.
Correct.
Large company, right?
Yeah.
So you can basically be in multiple microcosms, interact with a lot of people. You can get a lot of guidance. You want to learn about something, you can just go and ask, in groups and forums, and you'll get somebody to come and tell you,
Right.
what is it that you're trying to figure out in this. So Yahoo, as a larger company, even though the velocity was small, you learn a different set of things. Right. And then I was exposed to a lot of, because it was a larger group, there are a bunch of people from whom I learned about, how to think about political debates, or how do you think about traveling in Europe, for instance? Things that I'd never done. In fact, I didn't even go to Europe for many years after that. But just the idea that I learned from people there, and all very interesting. So a lot of great memories out of that.
Yeah. What I've seen, like startup, you become kind of expert into your role and whatever your company is doing. So everybody knows what the product is, what services are, irrespective of whatever department they're working in. But in the big companies, you kind of get your soft skills. In a way, you now know how to deal with different people, how to navigate your way through your career and so on. So tell me about another shift, India to Singapore. How was it? Anything you want to share there?
I was not meant to go to Singapore.
Okay, similar to IIT story.
Exactly. It seems that my life story is often connected with things that has nothing to do with anything.
Correct.
I went to US with Yahoo in 2008.
Okay.
2 months I stayed there. And I fell in love with the idea of living outside of India.
Okay.
There are a lot of things I liked. I just like the lower level of sound. I love the sidewalks. I like to go on walks. I like the public library concept. Just go in, pick a book. There's a lot of small things like that. It's not very often people think it's the glitz and the glamour and all that, or the money, or sometimes it's those small things that you very much enjoy, right? So I liked all of that. And so I said, look, I came back to Yahoo and said, can I apply to go? And they had adjusted that at that time. They had changed the rules at which you can apply to go abroad.
Okay.
They'd extended it. So they said, look, we can't do it. And that was overlapping with the great financial crisis.
Okay.
So anyway, it was...
Which year is this?
2008, I came back and I asked them. And according to the old rules, I should have been eligible, but new rules, I can't.
Okay.
Fine, no problem. So in the meanwhile, I was so enamored by the idea of Western world and so on. Started applying. I was interviewing for a job in Denmark. So I went to Copenhagen, met the team. They made an offer.
Yeah.
And the only real hurdle there was the taxation rate.
Okay.
So they said, don't worry, there is an exemption for highly qualified people. We'll apply for that. You will get that exemption. You will have to pay half of the regular rate.
Okay.
And I think you get 5 years under it or something like that. I don't remember the details now. So they applied for it and they applied for the visa, and I happily came back. I said, I'm packing my bags and going to Denmark.
Right.
In the meanwhile, they came back and said, sorry, we couldn't get the exemption. They say you have to have a PhD. You don't have one, but we still want you. I said, look, now the numbers don't make sense. So all this was happening. In the meanwhile, I had already resigned at Yahoo.
Okay.
And
saying that I'm going now.
I'm going there.
Yeah.
The director at Yahoo, a wonderful gentleman called Binu Raj, he said, look, and he didn't know about all of this, but he said, look, if you want to stay and if your motivation is to go abroad, I'll find you something. It may not be to the US, but if you like Yahoo and you are willing to kind of put some faith in me, give me some time, I'll figure something out.
Right.
I just took on his word. I said, fine, I'll do it. And so I declined the Danish role. I sat around, I think it was maybe like a month. He came back and said, I've found a role in Singapore for you.
Okay.
Do you want to go? I said, yeah. So they put me in touch with a recruiter lady in Singapore, Yahoo Singapore. And I don't know even if we spoke over phone, but we just chatted on Yahoo Messenger.
Correct. Yeah.
Back and forth.
That's the Singapore culture, right?
Not just that. I actually got an offer on Yahoo Messenger.
Right.
And I did not even sign a contract. Okay. Because the lady who was supposed to sign it on the Yahoo site was on vacation.
Okay.
But we had already agreed on the date.
Correct.
She said, no problem. You just fill out these papers for the visa.
Yeah.
And we'll figure it out. Anyway, it's an internal transfer. So I did that.
Yeah.
Landed up at Singapore on 31st of March 2009. Went into the office 2 or 3 hours later and signed the contract. So we signed the contract.
That was
in the office. Exactly.
Coming to a different country without a contract. How was the experience? I mean, India, Singapore, not much of a cultural change, right? You still get, like, you won't get the expectation you had from Europe. It's still crowded. It's quite different that time, and now it's become more crowded. What was that experience?
Singapore is a country that is made for people like me who are looking for small pleasures in life, right? It is. It has an amazing public transport.
True.
It has very cheap and abandoned hawker centers. We can go get a coffee for $1, sit down and read a book.
Yeah.
The weather, once you get used to it, 3-4 weeks in, it's pretty pleasant for you.
And it's predictable.
Yeah.
You know what's going on.
Going for a walk in the night is a pleasure you can enjoy every day, every morning, right?
Correct.
The weather is never bad for you to do that, right? Libraries are amazing. You just walk in and everywhere there's a nice local library.
Correct.
Pick up a book. They'll have a newspaper in the morning and go read a newspaper. For those kind of things, I loved Singapore, right? Other thing that I loved Singapore was just the exposure to people from around the world.
Correct.
Small island, 5 million people, attracts such an amazing
Talent.
Talent from everywhere. Obviously, it's slightly more proportional, British, Aussies, Americans kind of thing. But still, I got exposed. I mean, the team that I was working had Filipinos in it and Malaysians in it, had Americans in it, local Singaporeans, obviously, also a Spanish fellow. So it's just like suddenly I went from, working largely with Indians. I've worked with the occasional foreigner or gone to the US and all that. But suddenly I am now surrounded by people from so many different places, so many different cultures. And so you learn a different set of things. You learn how to communicate in that environment. You can't have the same Delhi wala backslapping kind of attitude to communication and get away with it, right? You got to just so that
the best is like a crash course, right?
Exactly.
You get everyone in that community. In office. In local tennis clubs.
Exactly.
We used to enjoy tennis a lot. Every condo will have a tennis court in it.
Exactly. The facilities are amazing.
Yeah. So that actually, I mean, I started trying to become healthy because of Singapore, because of just the exposure to various things you can do. I think that made a lot of difference.
Same for me. I went in 2009, started running for the first time in my life ever.
Right.
At the age of 28.
Yeah.
And I think, was it 2011, I ran the half marathon in Singapore. So it was, it does these things to you, right? It just makes you want to do a certain set of different things that you did not probably think of earlier,
I mean, I remember the best part for me was rekindling my tennis interest. So I used to play in college and then kind of lost it just because not able to find the right venue in India and so on. Plus, nobody's there to play with you, like not the most famous sports. But when I came to Singapore, in the condo, we had like 2 tennis courts, got really good friends, same age, similar skill levels. And we just started playing every day. And that was like, from there on, I continued till now. Thankfully, I could find few places in UK who does that. But tell me about your part after Yahoo, but still in Singapore. So you switched to another startup. What made you go back, or was it a startup?
It wasn't a startup. It was a small company.
Okay.
The company had been around from 2005.
Right.
It was a social media marketing agency called Vocanic. Who became my boss, Ian McKee, had started the company. Wonderful gentleman. And he had already built out the business 5 years. I think we had customers. But all of it was in Singapore at that time. I think the team was, if I'm not wrong, I think I was 13th employee or something.
Okay.
Not 13th calendar wise. There had been people come in and go.
Correct.
But when I joined, the team size was exactly 30.
Correct. Yeah.
And from there on, we expanded. We were just at the cusp of going to Malaysia and starting an office there. And my boss, Ian, had somewhat presciently calculated that Facebook's change of APIs and bringing in all this is going to usher in a significant change in how brands thought about social media.
Right.
And they were going to invest in it. And so he essentially hired someone like me just to kind of bring in the talent needed for that inflection to be accommodated, right? Because to be honest, like, he didn't need someone with my level of experience to come in, but he did. On my end, he trusted me to be a manager for the first time.
Correct.
And I wanted to be a manager. I attempted to be a manager at Yahoo. They said no. So for me, it was an upgrade. For him, also, it was kind of an upgrade.
Upgrade, yeah.
And so we both went in, and I was very blessed to be there for 7 years.
Yeah.
Wonderful colleagues. I was paired up on the program management and product management with a gentleman called Chris Drumgool, a wonderful partner in crime. We had 7 years together. He's American. Interestingly, we both were born a day apart.
Okay.
Same year, same month, just
Right.
one day apart.
Correct.
And somehow it just gelled really well. So it was great. So from 13, I think at peak, we crossed about 100 people.
Okay.
And along the way, we went from being an entirely agency kind of thing to start building products that we can then start selling on a SaaS basis.
Right.
Which was a very nice, transition.
Mm.
And so we went from being a very kind of, low margin agency business to kind of becoming a higher margin agency business, and then becoming a little bit of a product business, which was all then eventually what attracted Group M to buy us, which is the other overlap, right?
Correct.
Which is the WPP.
Yeah.
So we got acquired by Group M in 2013. I worked under the Group M head for another 3 years.
Okay.
And it was a fantastic journey.
So, I mean, what fascinated me in this part of your journey is you started as manager, you end up becoming CEO. So that was the 7-year journey. Now, I'm sure in between you must have got attracted by other offers, other companies, but you stick around and find your ways to move further. Do you reflect on it?
So Vocanic's journey was, you can kind of sort of really split it into maybe like 3 sections. Later on, I realized this. Ian always was very tough on newcomers early on in their careers.
Okay.
He liked to tested people. Yeah.
Okay.
And my first year was not very great. We were constantly butting with each other. I came from a company like Yahoo, which is a proper product company.
Got it.
Vocanic was kind of sort of really a professional services company as an agency. Pricing I did not understand. He expected me to always be running a profitable ship. I did not even know how to calculate profit. So there was a lot of friction between us. But somehow we both kind of sort of felt there was something in it.
Right.
But the first year was tough.
Okay.
So the end of that first year, I had an offer. And I walked in and said, look, I want to leave. And he said, why? I said, it doesn't feel like we are getting along well. I'm struggling and so on. And I think at that time, he had made up his mind that, Shreeni was fit for the role.
Okay.
But he had never told me this,
Right. Okay.
So I did not tell him where I'm going to go. I did not put the offer in front of him. This was not a negotiating tactic.
Correct.
I just told him, and he immediately said, have you accepted it? I said, no, just reject it. You're fine. We'll do fine. Don't worry about it. So he said, okay. So I basically end up turning down the offer. And from there on,
what makes you trust in him?
I think, even though we were struggling, it was not because we had some like vastly differing visions. We both wanted to do, he wanted us to do what I was doing.
Okay.
And I liked what I was doing. And I saw the growth.
Yeah.
I was able to hire the people that I wanted to.
Correct.
So, there was a lot of those things going correctly.
Right.
And obviously, as I said, Chris was a wonderful gentleman to be around. We had a great working culture, and we also had a great social culture. We would often lunch together, we would go. So there's a lot of other things going on.
Correct.
That I genuinely enjoy.
So did this actually give a clarity of thought to both parties?
Correct. So I think both parties kind of had to reconsider where we were.
Right.
I think just by the act of me asking for, the fact that I was not getting that autonomy kind of sort of maybe pushed him to give me more autonomy.
Right.
And I think it worked out quite well.
Okay.
And I think, and to his credit, he was absolutely a wonderful manager. He gave all the autonomy I needed. in fact, at one point of time, it was like I was running the show on the engineering side.
Correct.
And we had like a very small number of kind of handshake arrangements around the business saying, here is the margin I want you to generate, or here's the cost structure, here's what I want to deliver. And that's it. From a management perspective, we never interfered.
Okay.
Everything else was functional. Oh, how do we do this? How do we do that?
Right.
That's a different thing.
So there was a clear path for both of you. There was a clarity in place.
Yes,
which helped you.
Exactly. And Chris and I and Ian, I think all of us enjoyed it. There were other great colleagues.
Yeah.
In fact, one of them is my business partner today, Liam. Actually, two of them. The third business partner in my current company is also from Vocanic.
Right.
So there was a lot of good things going on there.
Correct.
And to be honest, I enjoyed being a manager for the first time. Growing the team, hiring people. There was a lot of management that I had seen in my previous life.
Right.
And because I had worked for a lot of managers.
Right.
And I had started noting mentally the things that I liked about managers and the things I didn't.
Correct.
And I did not go to an regular MBA or anything like that. But just by virtue of that, I kind of sort of figured this is the manager I want to be.
Correct.
Because this is how I saw the managers that I worked for.
Correct.
And so I just started applying a lot of those principles, and just got good at it. And so, Ian, Chris, Liam, all of us enjoyed working with each other. And we had a really nice many years.
Correct. No, that's so true. I mean, one of the learnings I had from consulting is you interact with a lot of managers, not only in your company, but on client side, because you kind of end up reporting to them, you work for them and so on. And even if I had few share of bad managers, but my takeaway was this is also learning because this is what I don't want to become. And then I have real clarity on similar situation come in future that, okay, this is what I don't want to do. This is what I really want to do. So that's interesting. One of the things which you mentioned is 7-year path, clarity of thoughts. What I've seen in a lot of young talent now is in first rejection, they tend to go out and look out for another job. What's your opinion on it?
Well, I've done it myself a little bit early on in my life. So look, it's just part of growing up.
Yeah.
You go from an environment where very often, at least I think, probably people of similar background who go to engineering and go to postgrad and all that, they often go through this intense part of working hard. They're aspirational, they're ambitious. You had to cross a lot of hurdles. That creates a certain level of momentum when you get into that kind of corporate path, right?
Right.
And then when you suddenly get feedback and all that, it kind of sort of slightly, you have to adjust to it.
Yeah.
Most people do. Even though I say that, I think most people do.
Right.
And I think younger people today are smarter. They're learning a lot through experiences, experiences in the sense that internships and all that. They also today have a lot more exposure to ideas. You get exposure in terms of social media and so on. Also, the things that we often used to hate. Today, there will be a stand-up comedy on every one of those things, right?
Correct. Yeah,
you can actually see that and you
and
can
laugh about it.
And laugh about it and normalize it.
Correct.
You say, oh, it's just not happening to me. Look, there's a stand-up comedian standing there making those jokes.
True.
So you then say, okay, look, it's part of life, and so on. One of the things I do today, and I do this even today at Quantcast, but I've done it at Vocanic before, wherever I come in touch with people who are just starting off their careers, I tell them that, I have seen the value of staying in a place and learning, even if you have a slightly rough start.
Correct.
Because like anything else, your ability to work in a company is compounding.
Correct.
You're learning more about the company, you're learning about the industry, you're learning about the toolkit, you're learning about the people, and every year you get better at it. Right? So, with this concept of promotion or, we don't give those out just because, you get N number of years under your belt.
Correct. I think that concept is gone now.
Yeah.
Nobody banks on number of years for promotion.
Correct. It is because that compounding makes you somebody who can deal with bigger challenges.
Right.
Take on more responsibilities and deliver. And so that cognizance, that little level of patience is needed. Now, look, despite what I say, there will be cases where people will find themselves in a
Things won't
mismatch.
work out.
They will want to leave, and that's fine. That's okay. But I'm just saying it is good for people to think that little extra, saying,
Correct.
is this an insurmountable hurdle?
Right.
Or what will I learn if I manage to surmount this hurdle? Yeah.
Correct.
If I stay this, what will I learn?
Yeah.
Or what badge of honor will I carry in my own head, even though nobody's going to give me anything, right?
Correct.
So those are things that I think do matter.
Yeah. No, makes so much sense. Like my model for younger generation is I keep saying the first year is for you to learn. The first year in the job, don't assume that you know everything. Just go and learn about that company, processes, everything. Second year is when you start to excel it. Now that you have understood your role, second year is when you start proving that I can do it better than how it used to be done. So that's the excelling part. Third year is when really you need to think internally what I can do next. And that's when you bring your manager in picture saying, I did this, now what's your plan? And fourth year, try to find opportunities inside your company. So don't change the job, don't change the company, but change the job in a way. You can still find out another role. That means doing the same role but at a better width, or completely different. I mean, I've seen big companies promoting intercompany transfers and things like that. So I agree. I mean, I've stayed in the current role for 10 years, but I've done 3 different jobs, for example.
I've been rewarded similarly. I mean, I was rewarded at Yahoo for staying. I was rewarded at Vocanic for staying and doing some interesting things. Similar things happened with me at Concast. So these things do accrue a lot of benefits.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah. And interestingly, once you became CEO, then you started your own firm. Is it like that's the now?
No, so the CEO thing. So I was never. I never aimed to be a CEO of an agency. I had become the CTO way back in just around the acquisitions, 2014, early 2014. And what happened is Vocanic, my department, the tech department, largely because over time we built really smart people, with set up processes and all. It was kind of sort of going without having to do too much. There was still work, but it wasn't like we didn't. And there were challenges, but it was not like it needed all 100% of my time.
Correct.
Eventually, what happened is because of the trust in me as having been around, people like Ian started giving more responsibilities.
Correct.
That was not really just about the tech department
Correct.
or deal with group M people, go communicate here or go talk to vendors to see what new is there.
Correct.
Or eventually, I started getting just general management responsibilities. Like go and figure out how do we do bonus this year. Okay, I've never done it. No problem. Sit down, figure out an Excel spreadsheet, figure it out. You seem to be doing a good job in your own department of allocating, resources. Everybody seems to come in and you're happy. They feel fairly treated. So I said, okay, I'll go do this again. Eventually, it led to there was a case where we had to kind of sort of do a lot of hiring on the agency side of it, not the tech side of it. And in 6 months, I was like doing 20, 30 hiring on the social media hiring side.
Okay.
So suddenly I went from, like kind of doing tech to doing finance, then doing, recruitment for the other side. So I'd kind of sort of done quite a lot of different things.
Then you started your own company.
That's right.
So how it happened? Like,
So during the last few months, when I knew I wasn't going to be, or rather, I was still trying to do the CEO job, but something. Ian, there was another gentleman called Liam who had also been at Vocanic before. He was also a partner. He left. The three of us had general ideas saying, we have done this very interesting set of problem solving in the social media space. Understanding data at volume, understanding how to score, how to make something out of it. This seems to be valuable in other spaces.
Correct.
So we started ideating, saying, can we do something with it in a way that would not conflict with our group M sale?
Okay.
Because we couldn't go back into advertising and marketing anyway, right? And so we kind of sort of thought about FinTech. And we shopped around the idea of building out a product setup. First, we did some JV, ideation with a couple of companies, big brands. That all fell through. And then we spent a lot of time raising funds.
Okay.
And we came very close to raising funds with one particular setup, but did not happen.
Right.
And we had, at this time, I'd already spent quite a few months.
Correct.
I needed a visa to stay in Singapore.
Correct. Yeah.
So I said, look, I'm going to find a job.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave the CEO job anyway.
Yeah.
But tell me, what we can do. And so I found a job, which is Quantcast.
Correct.
But in the meanwhile, we kind of sort of internally decided that we were going to make this into a consulting company.
Okay.
Because we had the ability to build things, but we are not able to get that break into figuring out what we should build.
Correct.
And neither of us were at that position financially to be able to bootstrap this.
Right. Right.
So we said, look, we're gonna convert this into a consulting company.
Okay.
And that's how Rhino Partners started. It has
Right.
been around for 7, 8 years, actually 9 years now.
And you're still on the board and support.
I am not on the board. I'm not
Right.
a paid employee.
Right.
I am basically essentially nothing more than a shareholder at this point.
Correct. Correct.
But I do help them. One of the things that I make sure is the finance side of things.
Correct.
Just making sure that our revenue is healthy, our payroll is getting processed, our cash flow is right, our margins are right. I'm the one generally shouting at people saying, the client's money has not come, go chase the client. This is the kind of stuff that I do a lot.
Right.
So in fact, many of our clients only know me when their payments are late.
When the payments are stuck. Oh, that's interesting. So that's the time you moved to UK. Is it fair to say?
So no, I did not. I actually joined Quantcast in Singapore.
Okay.
In 2017, I started building out a team there. Building out a team as in I was given a team and then I started building out. It was a great team. I really enjoyed working there. Quantcast made a choice that they did not want the Singapore engineering office anymore.
Okay.
We were the smallest of the 3 or 4 offices at that time.
Right.
And we were the worst in terms of time zone.
True.
The US is one, the UK was one, and then there is Singapore now, complicating matters for everything. So I think at one point of time, Quantcast figured out that it wasn't going to work out. The Singapore office in itself came in place because of a government grant.
Okay.
Singapore has this, I don't know if you know, Economic Development Board, EDB.
Right, EDB.
So EDB had gone and pitched to Quantcast in SF.
Okay.
3 years ago, saying, come and set it up, we'll give you some benefits
Right.
and so on.
That's how
it started. It worked out.
Yeah.
But then eventually, company strategy also changed. And we also struggled a lot with getting it right. So the company decided to kind of shut office. And when they did that, they offered everybody the option to move. But in the end, only 2 people moved, me and another lady. I moved to UK, she moved to the US.
Okay.
And that's how I moved to the UK in 2018.
Why UK? Why not US?
Few reasons, but largely, my wife is not very pro-US. Her image is often formed by all this mass shooting happening there and so on.
True.
And one, that was a concern.
But you are not the first person who is saying this. Like I know someone who kind of chose Europe or US because of their concern over their primary educating kids.
It is definitely a genuine concern.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not taking away. But in my case, it was a nuanced decision.
Right. Yeah.
Secondly, see, my wife does not drive a car even today.
Okay.
And in SF, you can't live in the city; it's too costly. If you're living outside, you need a car. Otherwise, it's very difficult to make it. So we both were kind of saying, is it going to work, right? Because otherwise it's not, I don't want to be the only person kind of driving around everywhere and so on. And then the other reason was my wife worked for a British company at that time.
Okay.
And so even though there was no contract or anything, there was a general understanding if she moves to UK, kind of sort of she'll find something.
Okay.
And on my end, who was going to be my new manager, a gentleman called Peter Day, who was our CTO till a month ago.
Right.
He basically said, look, I really think that London is good for you.
Correct.
Because we need some leadership there. And you can grow with the team there.
Correct.
And I trusted Ian, I trusted Peter. I said, look, that sounds fair. And again, on a handshake basis, I moved because I was given this assurance that London will kind of sort of grow under me.
Right.
Which was true, all true. In the 7 years that I've been there, I was given more responsibilities, but never ever challenged saying, hey, you're not doing this job, or we need to replace you, or we need to find somebody above you. So, that was also a very large part of that.
So in the hindsight, this moved actually
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I would have gotten to where I am today
Right.
if I had gone to Concast and SF.
Correct.
Because, there was a lot of senior managers there
Yeah.
and there was a lot of people. There was a more competitive environment.
Yeah.
Whereas when I went to London, I think I was the only senior manager at that time.
Right.
And when I say I was a senior manager, I was a senior manager on the cusp of getting promoted. Right. So I got that, ability to kind of maneuver myself in a space
Correct.
slightly less crowded.
Correct.
So yeah, that was definitely a benefit.
Yeah. So was the old Srini right about moving out of India? In the hindsight, what do you think? Was that you said you were always fascinated about going out? Um, how do you feel about it?
100% I agree
Right.
that I think the younger Srini was right.
Yeah.
Partly because see, we often think about going, or at least when I was growing, this might be different now. When I was growing, the concept of going abroad was one of the two reasons. Either you wanted money,
Correct.
or you were in a space where nothing was happening in India.
Correct.
Right. So if you were, doing some niche engineering, all the research on that would either be in Europe or in the US, right? I was in neither of those categories, right? I was fairly well paid in India. When I went to Singapore, there was no big excess money that came along.
Correct. Yeah.
For me, I was in a field that was growing. In India, if you're a product engineer, salaries were growing crazy.
Correct.
Even that, not just today.
Yeah.
Even 15, 16 years ago when I made that decision. So for me, the attraction was not those things. The attraction was that I wanted to be, among the smaller pleasures of life.
Right.
I'm the kind of person who likes that slightly lower noise kind of environment. I like to enjoy. Even as a driver, even today, I'm a very disciplined driver.
Correct.
I don't like somebody, constantly cutting me off or honking at me for no reason. Those are things, small things, but those things matter to me.
Yeah.
And that is what I realized, 16 years ago. And even today, that is one of the things that I am always on guard when I go to India.
Correct.
Right? Like I'm like, do I need to be in this car for this 1 hour? Like, can I spend my time not doing that, please?
No, absolutely. I can resonate so much. I mean, I think one thing which fascinated me in UK is just the pace of life and how you can do all the things on your own pace. One of the reason why we chose Reading and not London is also because of that. We have seen like Singapore city life, and I'm like, this seems much better. Like if you just stay bit away, I know the travel time is more. I know the cost is more to travel to London, but it feels like a right pace of life.
Yeah, but see, I'll give you an even more starker comparison, right, Sachin? You live in Reading, but my workplace is in central London. Okay?
Right.
It is in Shaftesbury Avenue.
Yeah.
It is right in the midst of the theater and tourist district.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I am constantly people on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And the level of noise there is 1/10 of the noise in my parents, where my parents live in Chennai, which is 40 kilometers outside of the city of Chennai.
Okay.
It is a place called Guduvancheri.
Right.
The city center is 40 kilometers. And the airport is further south, 20 kilometers.
True.
And there the noise is 10x.
Right.
I'm not even comparing it to,
To the
some Kotwal Chavdi in Chennai, right? Like it is world apart, right?
Yeah.
And so if we are comparing that, yes, also other things like, basic things, drinking water, so clean air. Those are things that for some people, they'll say, oh, I can always get a, bottled water sent to my home or whatever. But these are small pleasures that somehow I enjoy.
And it's different for everyone, right?
It is different for everyone,
something will work out for someone and some things won't work out.
Also, the other thing is, you see, for some people, that family attachment is also very different. You see, I come from a family where most parents are very comfortable with their children going abroad. We are told to kind of aim, or not told to, but at least tolerated with that aim. We are encouraged. Do this and go abroad.
It's not unheard of.
It's not unheard of. It's very accepted. It's very supported, And so even today, if I go and tell my parents saying, I want to come home just to be with you, I'm like, what idiot are you? Like, you come on your own reasons. Don't come because of us kind of thing. Right?
Correct. Come if it makes sense. There is an opportunity for you.
Correct.
Career-wise and so on. I started this podcast with a view that all these young guys who are coming out of college and starting first job, I've seen that there is a FOMO around it. Like they don't know where to go. There is a startup culture, and they feel like I need to go and start something on my own. Then they see stories of people who started at ground level and became CEOs. Um, you have kind of done both of it, right? So you have went your way up, as well as you have started something on your own. If somebody is coming out of college now, just joining the first job, what's your advice for them? And I know it's a vague question because
Yeah, it's
there
a
are so
vague
many.
question, and it has so many different answers for
Yeah.
so many different people. My suggestion would be to, kind of sort of learn what works for you.
Mm.
Work at a couple of places. You when you're young, you can afford to make mistakes.
Right.
Learn. If you go to a small company and you enjoy that autonomy and people around it, stick with it. And build on it. If you don't like it, you're miserable, or you yearn for something else, go do something else. Also, I think doing your first couple of years of job, or first couple of jobs, in fact, will tell you what matters in life for you, right? In fact, like for instance, some people genuinely want more money.
Correct.
Some people genuinely want more power, right? They say, "Oh, I'm only going to be happy if I'm one level higher than where I am,"
True.
right? And other people will want something else. They will want to be among people where they learn. They'll want to be among people where they want to do. Like they want to be this kind of really, active. They want to be doing things. And so each kind of setup, each kind of these realization takes some time to bake in. You getting out of college is likely the place where your ideas about it are not going to last 5 years from there.
Okay.
5 years from there, you'll have a better understanding. 10 years from there, it'll get better, and so on and so forth. But the point is, the early years, just finding that out for yourself
Yeah.
is, I think, important.
And knowing that you're allowed to make mistake, you can change path.
You can,
I think that was something which I was not aware of. Uh, I also got campus recruited day zero, but I always had this fear that is this the path now? And now looking back, I've worked in three different industries, changed places. I don't even remember my course now, like what I learned. I have no idea about those textbooks now. But I think that awareness, and hopefully these conversation will help them that okay, you can change your path. There are things which you can do. The career is long enough, 20, 30 years at least.
I mean, even though I have worked only in the field of my kind of studies, I've done a lot of different things. I've worked for smaller companies, worked for larger companies. I've worked for a professional services company. I've started a professional services company. Actually, Rhino Partners is the first company that has kind of sort of taken off. But on the side, I've attempted 7 or 8 different things, that all didn't work out.
Right.
So I tried a lot of different things. No problem, the cost of those mistakes are negligible.
Correct.
So you try a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And even within coding, I was recently thinking about it. I've done every kind of coding. I've done back-end coding, I did front-end. There was a time, 1 year, I was only in JavaScript land. Then I built up servers from handcrafted servers at Vocanic when we just joined. Things that people don't even do today most of the time, but we had to do it back then. And I did those. So you kind of sort of learn from this, very diverse set of things you try out. So if your career allows you, learn
Take a
lessons
chance.
along the way, do it. But also on the other hand, if something works for you and you know that it is keeping you happy, then let that path continue.
Yeah.
And
Double down on it, right?
yeah.
One thing you mentioned about trying many different things, and I know one venture which I don't know if it is a venture profitable. I don't know much about it, but your blog Coffee Can Investing, uh, I was a reader of it. Never knew you are running it till like 2 weeks ago. Uh, Talk us about that. Like,
It's not, so I have been interested in personal finance, kind of building, investing, building wealth kind of thing all along my life.
yeah.
My father had a nice career, but he did not focus on those things. And he made some mistakes towards the end of his career, and I got a first row seat into all of that. And so one of the things that I just wanted to do during my thing is, okay, I'll try and build some safety, build some thing. and I read a lot at that time and started investing. And over the years, I've made, mistakes. I've made some good choices. Overall, kind of money has been slowly kind of growing along the way, right? What happened is, I started blogging, which is
When was it? Like how many years back?
so blogging has been with me for a very long time.
Okay.
Even in college, I used to be writing to the college magazine. I was the editor of college magazine, both in undergrad, postgrad, both places. So the word has been around with me.
Right.
I don't think I'm literary genius or whatever, but just the willingness to write on my end was always there.
Yeah.
So I started blogging for many years in different forms. But very recently, about 2-3 years back, I said, look, what will it why don't I do it a little bit more disciplined?
Correct.
I'll pick a theme. It is a theme that I believe in. I'm honest with it. But then I will try and write, and have that discipline of writing in that theme. Otherwise, if you just have a general blog, one day you go one direction, one day you go another direction, and so on and so forth. I wanted to kind of challenge myself to a little bit of thing.
Right.
So Coffee Can Investor, it's coffee-can-investor.com. It came out of that. And so I just wanted to build that little bit of discipline. So in this, what I've done is I've actually invested my personal money, a fairly large part of our family wealth, into a portfolio.
Okay.
And I talk about my wealth building experience. I share that portfolio.
Correct.
And I share the experiences of building that portfolio, what I buy, what I sell, what I think about, and so on. And the general idea is to kind of share it with people. But to be honest, even if there were no readers, I still want to write it. It's a bit of my own personal journal.
But it's quite courageous. I mean, I have seen the blog where you post what things you're buying, what things you're selling. It's quite courageous because people will judge on you on the investment you have made, or trying to take a bet on similar size because you are telling them. Have any experiences you have gone through, like somebody reaching out to you selling?
See, Sachin, people will always judge you. Right. I mean, if people will show up it's very interesting, right? You go to a pub, you're having a drink. Somebody will tell, I bought Bitcoin and 1000x. True. And I'll gently ask how much. They'll say 10 pound. I'm like, okay, 1000 or 10,000. What is your net wealth? Something X. Like, what percentage of it? Nothing. I'm like, boss, your life did not still change.
Correct.
Right. Sometimes it's about the choice you make. Sometimes it's the magnitude of the choice you make. But overall, what matters is what has been your wealth generation, kind of story. And there is no one right answer to that.
Correct.
So everybody you talk to, you will judge them in some shade of gray. Right? There's no black, there's no white, some shade of gray. So fine, I'll put it out. For you, I'm going to be one shade of gray. For Taran, I'm going to be another shade of gray. And that's fine, right? I'm happy with that choice. I am saying that this is the shade of gray that I want to be.
Correct.
But I'm happy to let you judge it.
Any memorable mistake, investment mistake?
Oh, lots of them. Lots of them. I sold Tesla too early.
Okay.
I sold Facebook too early. I bought a property in Bangalore that I absolutely should not have bought under,
even non-residents Indian is of guilty of it in 3 days.
No, I agree. But even then, I already had bought my flat.
Okay.
I was living in it.
Okay.
There was no reason for me to overextend myself and buy another one.
Right.
I took a large loan, leveraged myself. At one point, my wife and I together used to make, I think if I'm not wrong, 71,000 rupees per month.
Okay.
And 59,000 of it used to be into EMIs. Just believe it.
Right.
I lived that.
Doesn't fit into any mathematical
investment formula, man. And I don't even know why we did it to myself. Obviously, it was a small phase of life. I got out of it and so on. But I learned a lot of lessons about not overextending myself. And, if I have to go back and look at my memories, that hurts a lot more than even selling Tesla, right? For instance. But no, I'm largely happy, man. I mean, like I think one of the things I've realized is, see, investment is very easy if you have modest expectations.
Right.
You want to preserve your wealth for inflation and make a little bit more. Life is great.
Correct.
You will make a little bit more, you'll make a little bit less on certain years and so on, but generally it'll be good for you.
Correct.
The thing is, never get blinded by all these amazing stories of people making 1000x on something, millionx on something, 100x on something. I bought something today, it went double. Those stories are great. The problem is, they're never the full extent of the story.
Correct.
You don't know whether they're actually wealthy or not, or what is it. The other part of it is, even if it is all true and if it is all that great, it will be very, very, very small percentage. So sometimes it is a part of massive lack, and sometimes it is people overextending themselves and coming off.
Correct.
But you won't hear the stories of people who overextended and did not come off.
Correct. Modest return with number of years staying invested can give you exponential returns.
Absolutely
later on.
fantastic. See, I have and it's one of the things I blogged about. I have a very strong personal finance dashboard.
Okay.
I kind of sort of say, okay, how much is our net wealth? How much is it compared to what we've earned? There are a few things that I just measure myself. And I don't think that if I did not invest, I'll be anywhere close to where I am today. If I just put my money into FDs or whatever, like, various forms of savings and so on, I would not be here. Right. And what the money does is very simple. It buys you optionality.
Correct.
Right. You do not have to be bound to a job. You do not have to be bound to a particular location or a particular kind of lifestyle or anything. Today, my father is going through some health issues. That means that I have to travel to India often.
Correct.
I don't have to think twice about buying those tickets. I'm like, fine, this is what the money is meant to buy.
Correct.
Right? It is not a number on an Excel spreadsheet. It is what it allows you to do.
Yeah. My thought is, I mean, if you are enough money, it actually helps you to excel in your career, because now you have freedom to choose what you want to do. You're not going for the job just for that salary because you have money to pay back.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. Probably the last question, I'm mindful of your time, is any investment advice for anybody who is starting, apart from reading your blog? So that will put the link in the description. But what else they should do?
No, I would just say maintain your discipline. Earn a fair wage, spend less than that. Make sure that there is always a little bit of surplus every month, and put it away into ways that will help you grow your life.
Right.
If your ambition is to go study in 3 years' time, put it away for that. If it's to buy a house, put it away for that. If it is none of those and you just want to build towards the future, then invest it away with a long-term view. And those things are far more important. That discipline of doing it every day, every week, every month, every year is far more important than investing tips.
Right.
And that is a one thing that I feel very blessed that my wife and I both agreed on. In otherwise a marriage where we constantly disagree, that is something we should do, and that has largely helped a lot.
And what if someone has missed the boat? They are into their 30s, 40s. What should they do?
Start today. Start today. The one thing, that's a good point you bring up. The one big issue with most people is, see, discipline is a little bit like muscle memory. You have to train yourselves. You have to think like that. That thing, if you start in the 40s, will take a higher level of discipline.
Correct.
Same way, like, if you want to become a runner at the age of 40 and you did not do anything till then, it's tougher. Investing is the same. So you have to do that extra effort. You probably might need even some financial advisor help.
Correct.
So they'll handhold you. And sometimes I find it really funny, the person at 50, works in financial industry, never invested anything, and still refuses to take a financial advisor help. I'm like, how is that going to work? Either you should be good at it.
Yeah.
Or you should be young.
Or take a coach.
You can learn from your mistakes, or take help.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just feel like if you start late, then you need to have the higher level of discipline.
Right.
And either you do it yourself or you find help.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Shrey.
Wonderful. It was a wonderful conversation.
A wonderful conversation. I'm sure lot of insight there, lot to unpack. But thank you so much for coming and giving all the insights.
Pleasure is all mine, and thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.